The sky cracks open with a deafening rumble, signaling the end of a long-fought war. Opposing soldiers scream for the necromancer's head, labeling him a monster for his forbidden arts. He stands defiant against the chaos, calmly announcing his name to the surrounding army. A massive dragon shadow looms over the battlefield, ready to unleash a wave of destruction. The necromancer claims his title as the world's singular, terrifying force of nature. His identity is fully revealed as the master of death, shrouded in an aura of dark flames. Skeletal legions rise from the ground, their blades glowing with cold necromantic energy. Thousands of undead warriors charge forward, overwhelming the terrified remnants of the enemy forces. The enemy commander orders a desperate assault, hoping to take down the mage at any cost. Golden spears of light rain down from the heavens, attempting to purge the forbidden magic. Those holy projectiles shatter against the necromancer's defenses, proving their efforts are entirely futile. He prepares a final, devastating spell to wipe out every soul on the field. A pillar of pure energy erupts into the sky, signaling the annihilation of his foes. Then the world shifts, and a familiar voice calls out to him from the void. A maid stands in a sunlit room, gently waking him from his dark memories. Reality snaps back as he realizes he is no longer on the battlefield, but in a bedroom he touches the mirror in shock, his hands still trembling from the residual mana. The realization hits him hard as he confirms he has traveled 20 years into the past. Everything he achieved in his previous life, the title of Archmage and his undead army, is gone. He is back in his younger body, left to process how he lost his supreme power. The former Archmage reflects on the immense power he wielded before being ripped through time, and the maid interrupts his thoughts, urging him to hurry before his father becomes enraged again. So MC calmly dismisses her with a polite apology that leaves the girl completely taken aback, seeing the once dreaded and cold young master act with such uncharacteristic warmth and kindness, as he walks through the familiar halls of his childhood home, acknowledging his reputation as a hopeless, spoiled brat. While memories of his past life's tragic downfall weigh heavily on his mind as he recalls the destruction of his family, yet he knows that despite losing his grand undead legions, his vast knowledge of forbidden magic remains perfectly sharp, and he vows to rewrite his tragic destiny with his own hands this time around. As he enters the dining hall to face his father, who immediately accuses him of inventing excuses to skip his studies. But instead of acting like a rebellious youth, MC apologizes and promises to be diligent in his training, which leaves his father stunned, having not seen that level of maturity or resolve in his son for many years. So he secretly wonders what kind of dark conspiracy could have possibly brought such a powerful household to total ruin, while his older brother scoffs at the change, questioning how he intends to inherit the estate with such a lazy history. And his sister quickly comes to his defense, asking their brother to go easy on him as she gently offers him a piece of food, reminding him that she remains the same kind soul he remembers from before, yet he looks at her with a hidden intensity, knowing he must protect her from the horrific demonic fate that claimed her in his previous life. While the sound of rhythmic footsteps echoing in the hallway signals the arrival of a much more imposing figure, and his mother enters the room. Clearly disappointed to find him lagging behind once again, as his sister attempts to shield him by taking the blame for his lack of progress in magic theory. But his mother shuts her down instantly, refusing to let her continue making such pathetic excuses for him. The mother delivers a cold ultimatum, demanding that MC master magic within a single week or face immediate exile from the family, and his sister desperately interjects, pointing out that even their genius older brother needed a full month just to learn basic mana control. But the mother ignores her plea, ruthlessly comparing MC to a worthless parasite while demanding to know if he truly wants his surname stripped away. So the sister shrinks back, clearly terrified by the sheer weight of the threat hanging over him, yet she tries to reason with him, warning him that he has no idea what kind of impossible trap he is walking into. And MC calmly stands his ground, asking his mother what the reward will be if he actually succeeds within that 7-day window, which prompts the mother to challenge him directly, promising to grant any request he makes if he pulls off the impossible. So he immediately strikes the deal, locking in his demand for access to the legendary hero's tomb. And the father watches the exchange with a skeptical, raised brow, clearly doubting his son's sanity, but he reluctantly nods, agreeing to the terms while the rest of the table remains silent, as the mother scoffs once more, reiterating that a lazy failure like him has no business stepping foot in such a sacred place. And as the scene shifts outside, the sister frantically catches up to him, begging him to reconsider and just apologize to their mother. But MC brushes off the concern, even though the sister remains convinced that he is setting himself up for total ruin, as she promises to help him escape to a neighboring kingdom with her own savings if he ends up getting kicked out. Yet MC just walks away, silently lamenting that his own sister has so little faith in the man he has become, and he reflects on his past life, acknowledging that he could never have done this before he was reborn. But now that he has decided to rewrite history, he knows exactly what he needs to do to achieve his goals. Because he remembers that the hero's tomb contains the remains of a legendary figure he needs for his own dark plans. So he heads into the forest behind the estate, hunting for the power that will turn the tide of his future, and he finally tracks down the remains of a powerful monster, the first piece of his new undead army. MC realizes his current mana pool is pathetic compared to his previous life as a legendary necromancer, and he considers the hierarchy of power that defines this world, ranging from simple beginners up to the untouchable legends, though he remembers that in his past existence, he already stood at that unreachable peak of strength, so he accepts that his current limitations force him to focus on quality over quantity for his rising undead army. Knowing that even this low-rank monster boss will be enough to stun his mother and prove his worth in the upcoming trial, then he reaches out with a command that transcends the boundary between life and death, calling forth a cold, spectral flame to bind the fallen creature to his will, and the ground erupts as the heavy carcass begins to stir from its long, forced slumber, while the bone and muscle snap back into place with a sound that echoes through the quiet forest. As the monster boss finally drags itself upright, now fully under the control of its new master, showing that the massive creature acknowledges MC standing still as it waits for further instructions. Despite the initial strain, MC maintains his focus, and the undead monster bows its jagged head in absolute chilling submission, while his eyes glow with the remnants of the dark magic used to fuel this resurrection, confirming the creature retains its deadly seismic abilities, even in this weakened, reanimated state. So he tests his new influence, commanding the monster to unleash a blast of fire to demonstrate his growth, and the beast obeys, channeling a torrent of raw, hellish heat that tears through the surroundings, leaving behind only the scorched remnants of his devastating power. So he smirks at the result, satisfied that his first minion is more than enough to handle his family's expectations. Though he admits the heavy mana cost means he is still far from regaining his former status as a true monarch, that little display of necromancy is exactly what I need to keep my mother off my back. But my sights are set on something far greater than the local tombs, where every other noble kid wastes their time hunting for some pathetic blessing from the ancestors, all because they're desperate to live up to the standard set by my overachieving older brother. Though they do not realize I have no intention of playing by those hero-worshipping rules, because I'm not chasing a blessing, I'm hunting the ancient entity slumbering deep inside that tomb. Just as my sister tracks me down, frantic about my disappearance and worried about my physical state, yet she keeps preaching about lying low to avoid total exile, oblivious to my real plans, so I brush off her concern, assuring her that leaving this family is not even on the table, and she stares at me, clearly lost and unable to process my sudden change in demeanor, while the household maid finally catches up to drag me off to my mandatory lessons, so I follow her toward the study, ready to play along with this ridiculous charade for a bit longer, knowing full well that even the legendary heroes could not handle the power I'm about to claim, and I walk straight into the classroom, ignoring the immediate tension hanging in the air, where some arrogant lackey from another noble house decides it's the perfect time to mock my social standing, and he laughs like he's already written my obituary, completely unaware of who he's dealing with, until the instructor cuts the noise, demanding I take my seat before his lecture starts, so I drift to my desk, bored by the memory of how much I struggled with this exact lesson in my past life, and I offer a polite, unexpected greeting to the teacher, catching him totally off guard, which leaves the old man visibly shaken by my uncharacteristic show of respect. Settling into my seat, I listen as the instructor drones on about the nature of mana, and frankly his lecture on hypocritical standards is enough to make me roll my eyes, while the old man continues preaching about how mana is a mysterious and powerful force, explaining that we'll eventually branch into classes like healers, mages, or even shadow assassins, and he details the long, tedious process of refining mana to reach the rank of archmage. Until a classmate interrupts to ask if legendary archmages are actually a realistic goal, which prompts the teacher to explain that such figures are nothing more than living myths, and he notes that this kingdom has not seen a single legendary archmage in 700 years, so he warns us to focus on basic mastery before we even think about chasing legends, but the arrogant noble across the room decides to call me out for my own lack of progress. And he mockingly points out that I've wasted 3 years without learning a single thing, so I shut him down immediately, declaring that I'll master all of it in just 1 week, which sends the entire room into a fit of hysterical laughter at my expense. Even the other students join in, whispering jokes about how hopeless my situation has become, while the instructor sighs, clearly disappointed that I'm still the same boastful brat as before, though I keep my cool, knowing that showing them my true power right now would be a mistake, and I eventually leave the academy behind, heading straight to face the real problem at home, where my mother sits calmly, completely unmoved by the late hour of my arrival, so I drop to my knees and beg her not to cast my companion out of the family, but she just watches me with cold disdain, barely flinching as she drops her tea. Mother reminds me that our house demands perfection, citing my siblings' early mastery as the standard, and she dismisses me as a stain on the family name who has no place here, ignoring my companion's plea as she orders her to drop the subject entirely, which leaves us standing in the cold silence of the estate with nowhere left to turn. So my companion looks at me with growing uncertainty, wondering if there is any hope at all. The 7th day arrives and we head back to the academy for the public test, where the instructors gather the crowd to witness my failure in front of everyone. Mother watches from the balcony, already convinced that I am about to bring more shame, while my companion stares at the arena, silently praying that I can pull off a miracle. The arrogant student steps forward to claim his spotlight, eager to see me grovel in the dirt. He taunts me one last time, bragging about the gap between his talent and my wasted potential. Then he unleashes a blast of elemental fire to show exactly how a real mage performs. The flames roar across the courtyard and slam into the target with crushing force. Debris scatters as the sheer power of the spell leaves the witnesses in awe. He turns back to me with a twisted grin, demanding I show him my pathetic training. I step into the center of the yard, ignoring the jeers and the heavy weight of their eyes. Mana erupts from my core in a dark, swirling vortex that swallows the light around me. The sheer pressure of the energy forces the air to ripple as I focus on the target. The crowd erupts in confusion and mockery, convinced that I am failing to cast anything at all, while Mother waits in the shadows, ready to finalize my expulsion the moment I stumble. Mother watches from the sidelines, convinced that exile is the only remaining option for me, while I focus my intent, channeling a raw, surging power that feels nothing like the basic lessons. The torrent of blue energy tears through the air, and the realization hits my rival that I am actually casting high-level magic. The spell strikes the training stone with such intense, concentrated force that it completely disintegrates. Sif stares in disbelief as the shards settle. Her shock reflecting the impossible feat I just pulled off. Whispers ripple through the crowd as the onlookers realize the supposed talentless outcast just surpassed them all. The elder mage observes the aftermath, clearly stunned that an apprentice could command such overwhelming destructive potential. My rival trembles with indignation, his ego shattered by the fact that my output dwarfed his earlier display. Mother turns to her companion, her cold detachment wavering as she acknowledges that I might not be a total waste after all. Sif points excitedly toward the wreckage, urging Mother to recognize that the impossible has finally happened. I stand unmoved amidst the chaos, letting the residual mana fade as I hold my ground. The observers lean in from the windows, desperate to understand how the situation turned so quickly. My rival charges forward, his composure gone as he screams accusations of incompetence and wasted potential. He insists that I must have cheated, refusing to accept that I could master such a spell without proper training. Murmurs spread through the courtyard as the onlookers debate the legitimacy of my sudden surge in power. Pointing a finger in my face, the arrogant student claims I stole a magical artifact to fake the display. I meet his frantic gaze with a steady stare, calling him out by name to challenge his desperate narrative. He continues to flail, arguing that even if I cast it once, the mana cost will leave me completely drained. I turn toward the elder mage, inviting him to offer his own professional assessment of the destruction. The old man looks on with a complicated expression, admitting that despite my success, my rival's point about the strain of the spell still holds weight. The crowd is spiraling into doubt, wondering if my display of power was nothing more than a cheap trick. The companion stares at me with a mix of betrayal and pity, convinced I turned down her help just to use a stolen item. She whispers to herself that my choices will only drive a deeper wedge between me and the family. Realizing she has to intervene before the situation spirals further, she prepares to take the blame on my behalf. She sprints toward the elder mage. Desperate to protect me from the consequences of these baseless accusations, I reach out and grab her arm to stop her, signaling that I do not need anyone to fight my battles. My grip is firm as I pull her back, cutting off her attempt to falsely confess. Telling her to stand down, I step past her with a calm focus that catches everyone off guard. I look the elder mage in the eye and ask for a simple confirmation of the rules. The old man agrees, noting that if I can replicate the spell back to back, it would prove no external tools were involved. I do not hesitate, immediately gathering mana into my hands to launch a second, even more intense display. The onlookers gasp as the sheer weight of the magical pressure hits them, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. A massive surge of fire erupts from my palms, tearing through the air with far more velocity than before. The arrogant student watches in horror as his theory about my supposed cheating crumbles into nothing. Energy crackles around me, a blinding display of raw talent that leaves no room for any further doubt. His face turns pale, the realization hitting him that he just bet his pride on a losing hand. The stone target does not just crack this time, it shatters into pieces under the sheer force of the impact. Debris clatters to the ground, leaving the arrogant student slumped on the floor, completely broken by the outcome. Whispers of disbelief ripple through the crowd as they finally accept that my power is entirely my own. Turning to the matriarch, the companion challenges her to justify the exile now that my innocence is undeniable. The matriarch acknowledges my talent but refuses to drop her guard, warning that my future here still depends on my diligence. Meanwhile, the elder mage makes it official by declaring to everyone that I used no illegal tools to cast the spell. The sun sets over the estate as the atmosphere shifts from heated confrontation to an uneasy, newfound acceptance. The companion finds me after the trial, offering congratulations and clearly impressed by the power I just displayed. I thank the guy for the support, mentioning that we should head out together since the news is already spreading. We make our way back to the main quarters, the gravity of the day finally beginning to settle in. The father intercepts us, confirming that the elder mage has already reported my success and praising me for making the house proud. I keep my composure, immediately pivoting to ensure he honors his word regarding my reward for this performance. He confirms the promise stands, guaranteeing me a spot in the upcoming opening of the legendary hero's tomb. The matriarch interjects with a cold reminder that this privilege comes at a heavy cost, demanding I return with a powerful blessing. She also grants me the same resources and training treatment as the other heirs, expecting me to uphold the family name. I accept the terms with a shallow bow, hiding the true ambition burning behind my calm expression inside my own head. The reward is a massive victory, as that tomb holds the key to unlocking my true necromantic potential. My plan centers on a forgotten, unmarked grave within those walls containing a legendary spellblade from the primordial era. That ancient spirit is the perfect candidate for my next major summon, a tool of absolute power. The studio watermark marks the end of this chapter, but the real work is only just beginning. My current mana reserves are still too thin to pull off such a complex resurrection without a boost. The family support provides exactly the training ground I need to refine my control and expand my capacity. A month of grueling, focused practice passes until a servant arrives to announce that the Lord requires my presence. My training has successfully pushed me to the mid-stage of an apprentice archmage, making it finally time to claim that soul. The Lord orders the guy to guide me through the upcoming trial, making it clear I need a crash course on the rules. He nods in immediate agreement, accepting the responsibility of showing me the ropes without a single word of protest. We climb into a carriage and head out toward the site, the journey marking the final stretch before we reach the tomb. The guy asks if I have any idea how the tomb's treasures are actually ranked. Clearly gauging my lack of experience, I play along and act interested, keeping my true knowledge hidden while he prepares to lecture me on the basics. He explains that these blessings come in 5 tiers from white to red, with the rarest ones capable of elevating an archmage. I pivot the conversation to his own experience, curious about what kind of power he managed to walk away with. He admits he only secured a purple blessing, sounding almost modest despite that being a massive achievement in anyone's book. That rank alone explains why he already has a commission in the royal army, though he clearly downplays his own talent. The girl sits nearby, acting as if securing any blessing is a miracle while I keep my expectations intentionally low. She insists that I must return with at least a white blessing, not realizing how much bigger my ambitions actually are. I brush off her concern with a fake smile, knowing full well that if she knew my real target, she would lose it. The massive gates of the hero's tomb finally loom ahead of us, ancient and imposing, holding secrets of the primordial era. We reach the entrance where the air feels heavy with the weight of fallen legends, a perfect graveyard for my next summon. The guy tells me he and the girl will wait outside for 3 hours, leaving me to face the trial completely alone. I thank him for the guidance and step toward the threshold, knowing I have only a short window to find the blade. The girl watches me go with a look of intense focus, clutching her own charm as if hoping it brings me luck. Standing before the rows of silent monuments, I scan the graveyard for the specific unmarked grave I saw in my research. The thrill of finally being on site hits me, and I prepare to push my mana to the limit for this resurrection. He told me to aim for the ornate tombs for better rewards, but he has no idea I am hunting for something far more dangerous. I finally track down the unassuming tomb that holds the power I need to kickstart my real plan, even without my past life memories. I know this nameless grave hides a legendary soul worth claiming. A quick apology to the dead is in order before I start tearing through the veil, channeling my mana into the cracked stone. I start the ritual to pull an ancient hero from their slumber. The soul inside tries to maintain its pride, daring to push back against my command. That pathetic resistance is nothing to me. So I break their will with a surge of dark energy. Every undead being in this world serves me, and this spirit is no exception to my absolute rule. The dormant legend finally manifests, revealing the legendary spellblade I came here to hunt. Forcing the spirit to show its submission, I demand that it kneels before its new master. The ghost complies immediately, bowing its head to acknowledge me as its lord, standing before the towering spectral knight. I can feel the raw power radiating from the blade in its hand. I ask the returned soul if it still remembers its own name from the world of the living. It admits that those memories are long gone, so I decide to give it a new identity, branding the knight with a name that fits its dark purpose. I finalize our new contract. From this moment on, you are known as Bonecrown Bladeseat, a tool for my conquest. Back near the entrance, the guy leads the girl through the graveyard, still unaware of what I have just unleashed. The elder companion reminds her that house members are expected to secure a high-tier blessing. The guy chimes in with a friendly warning, urging her to stick to the larger, more ornate tombs. She agrees to play it safe and head for the high-reward spots, unaware that I have already taken the prize. Meanwhile, the legend I just claimed stands ready. A weapon that will change everything once I leave this tomb. The girl pauses when she senses a massive magical signature. Realizing it belongs to a legendary archmage, she immediately shifts her focus to the source of the power, rushing deeper into the graveyard. Her movement kicks up debris as she closes the distance to the tomb. But her companion spots a dangerous dark aura and pulls his blade to intercept the threat. A surge of spectral energy flares up, forcing the guy to brace for an incoming strike. He notices a young boy standing in the path and assumes the kid is just another treasure seeker. The guy calls out, demanding to know if the dark energy radiating from the area is the kid's doing. Realizing the boy is a low-level caster, the guy warns the girl that this is not just a simple novice. He senses the tomb is saturated with malicious energy and suspects the boy is possessed by a spirit. Lightning arcs from his weapon as he prepares to neutralize the supposed threat. The boy turns to his spectral summon, Bonecrown Bladeseat, and calls it out to address the intruder. He reaches into his robes to produce a simple wooden staff. Nodding to his knight, the boy tells his summon to handle the aggressive guy. The spectral knight steps forward, its form flickering with cold blue fire. It lunges toward the guy with overwhelming speed, closing the gap in a single bound. Their weapons meet in a flash of sparks as the knight parries the guy's heavy blow. Steel grinds against spectral armor in a deafening crash that echoes through the tomb. The force of the impact sends the guy staggering backward, reeling from the sudden display of strength. He struggles to regain his footing as the knight looms over him, ready to press the advantage. Looking up at the towering entity, the guy finally realizes he has severely underestimated the boy. The boy stands unmoved while the knight holds the guy back. The girl stares in disbelief as she realizes her subordinate just lost to a mere kid. She struggles to wrap her head around the boy's impossible skill and age. Demanding to know his identity, the girl flaunts her status from the Ashblade house. A stern voice cuts through the air, silencing her immediately as the elderly patriarch appears. She gasps to see her grandfather standing there, watching the confrontation unfold. The old man admits that even he would have struggled against that display of power. Peering through his spectacles, he wonders if the boy is actually talented or just lucky. The guy begs for another chance, desperate to redeem his pride against the kid. He charges forward with a crackle of lightning, desperate to land a hit. The knight effortlessly intercepts his blade, parrying the strike with terrifying precision. Blue flames surge from the spectral entity as it pins the guy's weapon down. The boy warns him that any further aggression will result in his death among the spirits, watching closely. The old man notes the lack of mana and realizes the boy relies purely on technique. Fearing for his subordinate's life, the patriarch steps in to call for a ceasefire. He offers a humble apology for the guy's outburst, trying to de-escalate the situation. The boy remains stoic, making it clear he never needed to intervene personally to win. Turning toward the guy, the old man commands him to apologize for his rudeness, bowing low. The guy offers a desperate plea for forgiveness to the young master. The patriarch shudders, realizing he is witnessing a level of swordsmanship that defies all logic. MC brushes off the apology, telling the guy it really was nothing. The patriarch insists that defeating healers that quickly is a feat even grandmasters would struggle to replicate. The girl finds it impossible to believe that someone her age could hold such a high rank. Downplaying his own skill, MC gives credit to his legendary spectral knight. The old man laughs at the humility, still clearly impressed by the power on display, introducing himself as the head of the house. The patriarch brings his granddaughter forward. The girl bows low, offering her own formal apology for the earlier disrespect. Trying to gauge his background, the old man asks if he serves the royal court. MC shuts down the inquiry by stating he has no faction ties. The patriarch is visibly unsettled by the thought of such talent remaining unaffiliated. The girl seizes the moment to ask if he has received a heroic blessing yet. She quickly apologizes when she realizes he might not have reached that milestone. A sudden, violent coughing fit overcomes the old man, halting the conversation. The girl and the guy rush to support the patriarch as he struggles for air. MC calmly identifies the source of the agony as a lingering evil spirit. The guy pleads for help, revealing that even their best efforts have not cured the affliction. A tragic history comes to light as the girl explains how the patriarch was cursed by demons decades ago. Seeing the underlying malice, MC confirms that very few people possess the knowledge to handle such a curse. The girl catches on to his expertise and desperately asks if he knows the cure. Hope flickers in her eyes as she presses him for an answer to save her grandfather. The girl pleads for her grandfather's life, promising the entire house will pay any price. MC notes the irony of a house built on battling demons now suffering from a demonic curse. He dismisses the difficulty of the cure, claiming it is extremely simple for someone of his stature. The girl and the guy can barely contain their disbelief as their hope suddenly reignites. MC demands they gather specific materials before he can begin the eradication process. She breaks down in relief. Absolutely certain that her grandfather will finally be restored, the guy offers a communication tool to ensure they stay connected while gathering the supplies. He promises to personally retrieve MC once everything is ready for the ritual. MC accepts the arrangement, fully aware of the power dynamics now shifting in his favor. He reflects on how his strength has grown after absorbing the soul from the tomb. A flicker of ambition crosses his mind, knowing he can push the old man back to his peak. A new voice calls out, breaking his concentration as he prepares to leave. The girl demands to know which heroic spirit granted him a blessing. MC panics internally, realizing he completely forgot to craft a lie about his mysterious power. The newcomer stares him down, sensing a total lack of any divine blessing on his aura. He questions why MC returned from the tomb empty-handed despite the family's heavy investment. The man makes his disappointment clear. Labeling MC a failure who consistently misses expectations, MC laughs it off, claiming that no spirit is worthy of him and that such blessings are useless. The girl tries to drag him away before the situation spirals into a full-blown confrontation. The man stares in shock at the audacity of the claim as they make their escape. The girl makes her disgust crystal clear, calling the boy absolute trash for his performance. She reminds him of the heavy price paid for his position and warns him to watch his step, comparing his failures to the success of the guy. She demands he stop embarrassing the family, ordering him to stay away until he can prove himself. She storms off, leaving him behind. The boy ignores her outburst, musing that he could practically teach the academy instructors himself. She mentions that the heiress is also attending, expecting him to leverage that connection. He recalls his past life where the heiress was his fiancée. Before his worthlessness ruined everything, knowing she has a sharp temper, he realizes he is now just a pawn for his family. He decides that for the kindness the heiress once showed him, he will change her tragic fate. 3 days pass, and he arrives at the prestigious academy located in the north. This massive institution serves as a neutral ground for students from all sorts of backgrounds. He plans to use this time to reclaim his status as the undead monarch in secret. Arriving at the gates, he spots the heiress walking in with a crowd of admirers. Local students whisper about her beauty and wonder which lucky guy managed to secure her engagement. The boy watches from a distance, observing the heiress as she moves through the academy grounds. An attendant informs the heiress that her family sent a guardian to accompany her. She learns the guardian is actually a replacement for the guy. Despite his family's recent decline, the heiress reluctantly agrees to let the new arrival follow, hoping he might prove useful. Watching her from afar, the boy notes that her arrogance has not changed one bit. As she approaches, he prepares to make his move under the name of the guy. The heiress is baffled that a lowly guard would show up at the elite academy. She starts spinning wild theories about him hunting down demonic collaborators, and he quickly hushes her to keep his true identity under wraps, telling her to use his fake name and checking on her family's progress. He dismisses her once he gets the status report on the requested materials. Then a mysterious girl in black calls out to him, demanding his attention. He leaves the heiress behind to head toward the newcomer. The heiress bristles with sudden jealousy watching another girl approach her supposed guard. The newcomer insults his strength, claiming she should be the one doing the protecting. Nearby students start whispering about the boy's proximity to the girl in black. They identify her as the daughter of a powerful lord who holds a grudge against the boy's house. A cocky noble arrives on the scene, clearly obsessed with the girl in black. He confronts the boy for not informing him of his arrival. The boy recognizes this guy as a past bully who has not changed a bit. The girl in black snaps at the bully to leave her alone, but he refuses to take the hint. Pressing his unwanted advances even harder, she screams at him to get lost, making her disgust perfectly clear. The bully ignores her plea, threatening to use his father's status to force her. Pure rage flares in his eyes as he refuses to be rejected, and he lunges forward to grab her, forcing the boy to finally step in. MC catches the bully's hand in midair, saving the girl in black, then delivers a sharp, clean strike to the bully's face, effectively ending the immediate threat as the surroundings fall silent. The bully stares back in disbelief, demanding to know who dared strike him, while his panicked lackey whispers a warning about the boy's true identity. The bully sneers as he realizes the boy belongs to a disgraced house. His aura erupts with murderous intent as he prepares to retaliate. But MC meets his gaze with a cold, terrifying intensity that freezes him in place. Onlookers whisper that the bully is notorious for his cruelty, leaving them certain the boy is done for. The bully remains fixated on the boy's grip, failing to reclaim his dignity. The girl in black watches in total shock, realizing the boy is actually defending her. A sudden blast of magical pressure ripples outward between them. The bully struggles against the sheer weight of the boy's presence. While MC remains completely unmoved, his focus locked solely on his opponent. The bully's panicked lackeys scramble to pull him away, citing the public setting as a reason to retreat. They drag their master back, mocking the boy for being lucky enough to avoid a real fight. The bully rages at the interference, but cannot shake the bone-deep chill the boys look left behind. They retreat toward the academy gates, leaving the boy and the girl in black alone. The girl in black immediately confronts the boy for drawing the attention of such a dangerous house, but MC dismisses her concern, telling her to worry about her own safety instead. A blonde girl hurries toward the group, calling out to the girl in black. The girl in black recognizes the newcomer as her acquaintance. Curiosity drives the blonde to ask who the boy is, and the girl in black identifies him as the youngest son of a prominent house. The blonde whispers that she recognizes him as the so-called waste young master. She complains that keeping an eye on him only brings her trouble. While the girl in black brushes off the complaint, MC watches them from afar. Recalling that in his past life, the blonde was a power-hungry snob hiding a political agenda, back inside the lecture hall, MC dismisses the instructors as amateurs. He shifts his focus to a specific magical tool in the academy vault, a powerful crystal that can drastically enhance a user's strength. Setting his sights on acquiring the crystal, he waits for the end of the lecture. Class concludes, and the blonde immediately tries to drag the girl in black away for some fun. The girl in black hesitates, citing her studies, but the blonde insists that even a future Grand Archmage needs a break. A loudmouthed guy interrupts them with a grin. He announces that he has booked a lavish banquet at a local tavern to celebrate their first day. The blonde questions the cost, but the guy brushes it off as a small price for their presence, pressuring the girl in black to accept the invitation. He mocks the boy's family status. The girl in black remains uncomfortable with his arrogance. Yet she eventually caves to the blonde's constant pleading. Leaving the hall together, they head toward the tavern, while MC, ignoring their plans, receives the communication badge he ordered for his own secret agenda. With his new gear in hand, the boy sends a quick message to confirm his meeting at the tavern, heading out toward the campus grounds while keeping his distance from the others. The blonde and the girl in black notice him tailing them and decide to call his bluff. He remembers that in his previous timeline, the girl in black vanished after this exact event and returned completely broken. Knowing the stakes, he decides to shadow them and intervene before history repeats itself. The blonde catches him following and demands he stop hovering, telling him to back off immediately, but the loudmouthed guy cuts in with a smug grin, claiming he does not mind the boy tagging along. Despite his polite facade, the guy is secretly seething and vows to make the boy pay for embarrassing him. The blonde rolls her eyes at the guy's fake display of generosity, complaining that the boy seems obsessed with the girl in black. As they finally reach their destination, arriving at the tavern just as the sun begins to set. The group steps inside to start the party. Inside, the loudmouthed guy makes a grand show of his wealth, declaring the night is on him and buying rounds for the entire crowded room. The boy keeps his guard up and watches from the shadows of the tavern. Mercenaries fill the space, drinking and laughing while showing off their weapons. Weapons stained with dried blood sit on the tables next to empty mugs. The boy notes that these people live for nothing but violence, booze, and the girl in black's beauty. Just like he remembered from his past, seeing the situation spiral, he grabs the girl in black's arm and tells her it is time to leave. She hesitates, caught off guard by the sudden pull, while the blonde finally snaps, screaming at him to get lost and stop ruining their night. The girl in black refuses to leave, claiming she already gave her word to another, and the blonde scolds her, demanding the group show some respect for his family name. But a group of battle-hardened mercenaries notices the commotion and moves in. Their leader mocks the young aristocrats for trying to act tough in a place like this, stalking closer to the girl in black with a predatory grin, his eyes fixated solely on her as he lets out a disgusting, hungry laugh. The blonde snaps at the tavern owner, demanding to know why these blood-soaked killers are here, and the mercenary leader instantly turns his aggression toward the blonde, ready to fight. The desperate owner tries to intervene, begging the blonde to just come back another day, but the blonde refuses to back down, feeling insulted by the suggestion that he should yield. His panicked attendant whispers that these are ruthless killers from outside the city, yet the blonde is too prideful to care. Insulted that his authority is being challenged, the mercenary leader demands the blonde scram before things get ugly, but the blonde screams back that no one disrespects his house, and the tavern erupts into violence as a single shot rings out. The mercenary leader kicks the blonde's attendant, sending him crashing to the floor, leaving the blonde shocked that these men would actually dare to attack his party. The leader pours his drink over the fallen man while threatening the entire group, claiming that if they were out in the wilds, they would already be dead corpses. An MC watches the chaos unfold from the side, finding the entire situation far more interesting than expected. The blonde tries to bargain, begging to speak with the mercenary captain while name-dropping his noble family, but the mercenaries just laugh at his pathetic attempt, mocking him to call his father instead, and the legendary captain himself stands up, pouring his drink as he reveals his identity. The blonde finally realizes he is staring down the infamous blood-stained mercenaries. The captain sneers that a noble title means nothing to them out here. Panic ripples through the blonde's party as they realize the gravity of the situation. The girl in black whispers to her companion that they are truly in over their heads. The mercenaries howl with laughter, clearly enjoying the sight of terrified nobles. The blonde desperately tries to keep his composure, terrified of losing face in front of his lady. He attempts to walk back his previous aggression, offering an apology to salvage the situation. The captain leans back, clearly amused by the boy's sudden shift in tone. The mercenary crew cheers, thinking the blonde has finally folded and accepted his place. But the captain makes a disgusting demand, ordering the noble girls to dance for his men. The blonde goes pale as the reality of the insult hits home. The crew roars in anticipation, eager to see noble ladies humiliated for their entertainment. The girl in black and her companion look on in absolute horror at the unfolding scene. The blonde tries one last time to pull rank, insisting that his companion is an heiress, but the mercenary leader cuts him off, shouting that he does not care about his status. The blonde's companions beg the girl in black to just dance so they can avoid further violence. The girl in black firmly refuses to submit, declaring that she will not be touched by these thugs. The girl in black pulls the blonde aside, desperately begging him to stop this madness. But the blonde ignores her and walks straight toward the captain, demanding they end this farce. The captain scoffs at the boy's audacity, wondering why he would ever listen to a pampered noble. His companion screams in terror at the boy's reckless move, knowing he just threw away their only chance at peace. The deputy captain catches wind of the defiance and decides that the fun is officially over. He leaps into the center of the room, inciting his men to cheer as he prepares to settle the score. The massive mercenary lunges forward with murder in his eyes, closing the gap in a heartbeat. The girl in black lets out a desperate cry as she sees the blade coming for the blonde, just as the attack connects. The boy shifts into a cold, lethal focus that blindsides the mercenary. The deputy captain swings his weapon with everything he has, screaming that the boy is already dead. A massive arc of fire erupts from the strike, engulfing the entire space in a blinding inferno. The girl in black watches in disbelief, convinced the boy has been incinerated by the strike. The blonde's own allies panic, screaming that the boy is going to get them all killed. But the smoke clears to reveal the boy somehow untouched by the flames. The onlookers are paralyzed with shock, unable to process how he dodged a spellblade strike. The boy turns to a nearby guard, calmly asking to borrow his sword for a moment. The deputy captain roars in pure rage, charging forward again to finally crush the boy into the dirt. A sharp glint of steel flashes in the boy's hand as he prepares to return the favor. He whispers a quick command to the blade, unleashing a surge of power that turns the tide instantly, and a wave of pure dark energy tears through the flames to meet the charging mercenary head-on. The dark energy meets the mercenary's blade, shattering the steel upon impact, and the deputy captain stares in disbelief as his weapon falls into pieces. His pride crumbles alongside the metal. He barks in denial, unable to fathom how a mere kid broke his prized sword. The mercenary loses his composure, terrified of looking weak before his own men. Shifting his tactics, he lunges for a brutal hand-to-hand brawl, closing the distance with a desperate, lunging strike. Yet MC knows he is not yet ready to trade raw blows with this monster. Shadows twist and contort into a hungry, glowing form. The deputy captain reaches out to grab him, but MC slips away with ease. A surge of mana manifests as a roaring spectral inferno, and the blast slams into the mercenary with devastating force, sending him flying backward through the air. The mercenary hits the ground, completely overwhelmed by the sudden counter. His allies watch, convinced they are hallucinating this impossible display of power. The remaining mercenaries close in, their eyes burning with a dark, predatory light. The captain steps forward, promising a slow and painful end for the boy. Onlookers realize the deputy captain has truly doomed himself by angering the group. The surrounding party decides to abandon the conflict entirely, and the girl tells her companion to leave the battlefield before they get caught in the carnage. With the girl gone, the captain decides he can stop playing nice. He vows to make the boy suffer and extort a massive ransom from his house, but the boy realizes he can just kill the entire mercenary crew instead, and he taunts the captain by questioning what his own life is actually worth. The captain shouts into the darkness, expecting another enemy to emerge, but a new arrival steps into the light, completely composed and armed. The captain recognizes the newcomer and his confidence instantly shatters. The newcomer ignores him and checks on his subordinate, asking if they were harmed. The subordinate admits he was totally outclassed by the mercenaries, and the captain stares in disbelief as he realizes the newcomer answers to the boy. The newcomer declares the boy is an honored guest of his house, leaving the captain to realize he has just signed his own death warrant. He drops to his knees in a desperate bid to save his crew from annihilation. The rest of the mercenaries look on, horrified by their leader's sudden submission. The captain offers his blade to the boy as a token of absolute surrender. He pledges the entire group's loyalty to the boy in exchange for mercy. But the boy mocks their cowardice, noting how fast they folded under pressure. He accepts the blade but maintains his cold, lethal indifference toward them. The boy decides that while their lives are spared, punishment is still required, and he unleashes a sudden, violent burst of power that sends the captain flying. The boy watches with a cold intensity as his power begins to manifest, and a nightmarish skeletal entity erupts from his aura to claim the captain. The mercenary leader barely has time to register his fate before the impact hits, while the remaining goons scatter in a panic, desperate to escape the boy's wrath. The newcomer confirms the captain is gone, leaving the path clear for their departure. A surviving mercenary gasps in relief, knowing they narrowly avoided a total massacre. Boy travels toward the estate, his arrival announced with an ominous sense of power. Soon he stands before the grand gates of the manor where the true work begins. He enters the main hall, his presence commanding immediate attention from those inside. The girl greets him with obvious excitement, flanked by an elderly scholar ready to serve. She presents the rare materials he requested, their scarcity obvious even to the untrained eye, and she explains the immense trouble they went through just to secure these items. The boy inspects the offering, his hand glowing with a restless, surging energy. He channels that power directly into the materials, igniting them with a brilliant flame. The items begin to react to his touch as he weaves them into his design. He commands the others to step aside while he channels his full focus. His eyes lock onto the task with an analytical, almost predatory sharpness, and the spectral guardian manifests once more to oversee the delicate crafting process. He reaches out to manipulate the volatile energy with absolute precision, and the chamber is flooded with his dark, overwhelming strength as the ritual culminates. The boy pushes his dark aura to the limit, leaving the parasitic entity nowhere to run. His summoned guardian tears the spectral parasite away from its host. The girl watches in disbelief as the decade-long curse is finally ripped free. The scholar realizes the true scale of the power needed for such a feat. His own past arrogance dawning on him, intense pressure radiates from the boy as he battles the entity's final resistance. A violent crack echoes through the chamber as the spectral bond snaps. He gathers the liberated essence into his palms, weaving it into a concentrated form. The energy coalesces into a shimmering gemstone as he locks it into place, holding the refined stone of death. The boy realizes he has successfully stabilized the volatile magic. The scholar shouts in triumph, recognizing that the long-standing torment of their house has finally ended. The girl rushes to the side of the recovering elder, concern etched across her features. The boy signals for her to step back, his job here nearly finished. The elder gasps as a sudden rush of vitality floods his frail body. Confusion gives way to realization for the girl as she monitors the elder's sudden transformation. The boy explains that with the parasite gone, the elder's internal strength will naturally begin to restore itself. Standing amidst the residual aura, the boy observes the immediate effects of his intervention. The elder flexes his hand, feeling the surge of mana that has been locked away for years. Laughter erupts from the old man as he discovers he has surged past his previous limits. The scholar clenches his fist in excitement, sensing that the political tides for their family are about to shift. And with the elder fully restored, the boy looks on, knowing the house's future has been secured through his work. The girl demands to know what is happening, still reeling from the sudden change in the patriarch. The boy explains that the curse actually tempered the patriarch's body over the last decade, Realizing the irony, the girl asks if the curse has essentially become a gift. The patriarch confirms it, adding that he is now one step closer to becoming an advanced archmage. He declares that the lost glory of their house is finally within reach once more, pledging absolute loyalty to the boy. The patriarch and the scholar offer their unconditional support. The boy declines the offer of servitude, stating he only wants information in exchange for his work. The patriarch eagerly invites him to ask whatever he needs to know, pointing to the death stone. The boy asks where the patriarch originally encountered that cursed undead. The patriarch explains he fell into a demonic trap during an imperial crusade at the Wailing Valley, noting the valley's reputation for being infested with high-rank monsters. The boy decides to put that hunt on hold for now. The boy departs the estate, leaving the family to process their sudden stroke of fortune, reaching his new destination. The boy is greeted by an assistant who has prepared a residence near the Magic Academy. Stepping inside, he notes the sheer scale of the place he will be calling home. He sighs at the sight of the massive mansion, having only requested a simple place to crash. The assistant laughs off the boy's modesty as they settle him into the luxurious quarters. Back at the estate, the girl points out that the patriarch has been laughing for quite some time. The patriarch admits he is overwhelmed with joy, urging the girl to maintain a close bond with the boy. She blushes at the suggestion. Clearly taken by the boy's talent and youthful demeanor, the patriarch's expression darkens as he turns his focus towards settling an old score with a rival known as Rustblade. Night falls over the estate and the silence is heavy with expectations. The girl returns home late, greeted immediately by her mother. Her mother presses for details on the boy, curious if a meaningful connection has finally been made. The girl confirms they met, keeping her thoughts guarded as she avoids further questions, despite rumors painting the boy as a failure. The girl insists that she will form her own judgment privately. She begins to wonder if their peers have drastically underestimated his true potential. Meanwhile, the boy stands alone in his new residence, focused entirely on his next move. He pulls out the artifact, deciding it is time to push his loyal servant beyond his current limits. Calling out to his servant, he prepares to bestow a significant power boost. The servant kneels as the boy channels raw energy, flooding the air with a blue, crackling aura, assessing the situation. The boy knows his servant has stagnated at the intermediate level for far too long. The artifact glows with intense light, acting as a catalyst for the servant's long-awaited evolution, offering the gift of power. The boy watches as the servant reaches out to accept it. Energy shards shatter into a blinding storm, surrounding the servant in a vortex of raw magic. Currents of light whip through the room, forcing the boy to shield himself from the pressure. The servant is consumed by the radiance. His essence warping under the sudden influx of strength, boundaries break as the aura snaps into place, cementing the transformation in a flash of brilliance. The servant stands tall, his presence fundamentally altered as the overflow of power stabilizes. Watching the surge, the boy realizes the servant's breakthrough has successfully triggered his own advancement. He feels the final barrier collapse, finally claiming the rank of Archmage for himself. The servant has finally hit the intermediate rank, but MC knows he still has to keep a low profile. A new day brings him right back into the academy's public eye, where the girl and her friend are busy searching for someone. They're worried about the guy who went missing after the recent chaos, and the girl's friend is already assuming the worst, claiming the mercenaries surely finished him off. But the girl isn't having any of that defeatist talk meanwhile. The rival is fuming over the stolen spotlight and hurling insults at the guy's reputation. Suddenly, the guy walks in, completely unscathed, and the rival absolutely loses his mind seeing his target alive and well. The girl rushes over in relief while the guy insists the mercenaries are not a problem anymore. Everyone is left questioning how he could possibly be in one piece, while the rival seethes, convinced the guy's family must have paid a massive ransom to save him. The instructor then marches in to command everyone's attention, announcing a new practical training session held out in the monster forest. The guy immediately realizes that's the exact territory where those mercenaries operate. He grips a mysterious artifact tightly, knowing he needs more intel. Tracking down an informant, he prepares to dig for the truth. The informant confirms he knows the terrain like the back of his hand, so the guy demands a full briefing on everything lurking in those woods. And the informant reveals the forest is currently suffering from a dark mana leak that's triggering a full-scale beast tide. The informant warns that anyone venturing toward the ancient tomb comes back babbling about resurrected skeletons. He insists that standard forest beasts are not the real issue, suggesting a guide for the guy's own safety, but the guy cuts the conversation short, having gathered all the intel he actually needs. Internalizing the memory of an ancient tomb from his past life, he recognizes a high-stakes opportunity disguised as a death trap. The student group eventually arrives at the outskirts of the monster forest. Onlookers watch the noble students arrive, already whispering about who stands to gain the most. The rival consults his lackey, questioning if they should still pursue the initial plan involving his target. He scoffs at the thought, fixating instead on his main objective while swearing to crush anyone who interferes. The party advances into the dark, imposing shadows of the forest outskirts. The instructor gathers the students to announce their practical combat mission. She tasks them with hunting Shadowclaw wolves, requiring proof of the kill by the end of the day. An explosive blast rings out across the training grounds, signaling the start of the hunt as the rival shows off his destructive firepower. His sycophants cheer on his display, hoping to catch the attention of his romantic interest. Other students flock toward the rival, eager to ride his coattails to a safe and easy victory. The girl expresses her doubts to her companion, preferring to stick with the guy who survived the mercenaries. The guy meanwhile pushes his perception range to its absolute limit, sensing dozens of wolves and a distinct, lingering aura of poisoned crocodiles in the northern swamp. He turns to the girl and proposes they hunt together, emphasizing the need to keep her shielded from danger, and she agrees immediately, fully trusting his judgment as they head into the fray. The rival struts back into view hauling a downed wolf, and he waves it around like a trophy to mock anyone taking the exam seriously. His sycophants instantly rush over to join his ranks, hoping to bask in his reflected glory while securing their own safety. The rival eats up the praise and invites them into his growing entourage. Meanwhile, deep in the brush, a corrupted predator stirs, its body pulsing with a sickly violet energy. The beast lets out a roar that shatters the silence of the woods, while teeth dripping with dark toxins gnash in the shadows. A massive wolf emerges, its eyes burning with unnatural, corrupted light. MC watches the forest with growing concern as the students blindly follow the rival. An observer notes that a high-tier Lord-class beast should not be wandering this cleared zone. She orders her subordinate to keep watch while she moves to intercept the threat. The rival remains oblivious to the danger, still busy farming praise from his followers. MC senses the death aura intensifying and realizes the local wildlife is becoming berserk. He tries to warn the group, but the rival just keeps grandstanding for his fan club. The student pack wanders deeper into the woods. Unaware they are walking into a trap, the forest suddenly goes dead silent as the normal prey animals vanish. The corrupted wolf lunges from the darkness just as the rival starts his next speech, and he immediately winds up a fireball to show off, ignoring the lethal threat closing in. The rival's fireball slams directly into the corrupted wolf, but the beast does not even flinch. Instead, it pushes through the flames as if they were nothing more than a warm breeze, forcing everyone to realize their supposed champion is completely out of his league. The rival panics as his pride shatters along with his signature spell, while the beast lunges forward with jaws wide enough to swallow him whole. MC suddenly intervenes, channeling his own mana to override the situation. The air crackles with pure energy as he unleashes a counterattack, and the corrupted wolf drops dead in its tracks before it can reach the group. The nearby students stare in absolute disbelief, struggling to process what they just witnessed. Whispered rumors about his past begin to circulate as they scramble for an explanation. MC ignores their shock, sensing that the forest is still crawling with more infected threats. He realizes he cannot win this alone and decides to summon a much heavier hitter. Leaving the terrified group behind, he steps deeper into the darkening woods. A command echoes through the trees, signaling the arrival of his true ace. The ground begins to shake violently as something massive tears through the canopy. A hulking, armored construct crashes onto the field, crushing the earth beneath its weight. MC orders the construct to purge every remaining corrupted Shadowclaw in the vicinity. The monster lets out a guttural roar that challenges the forest itself. And it launches itself at the pack with terrifying speed and precision, pulverizing the nearest wolf in a single, earth-shaking collision. The rival watches in panic as the construct unleashes a devastating move, and the girl questions if the guy who abandoned them could possibly survive. While the rival desperately tries to reassure the girl that he is more than capable, the construct lands with enough force to shatter the ground beneath the wolf, and the sheer power of the impact leaves the pack reeling in confusion. MC observes the scene from a distance, noting the dark energy remains unaffected. So he commands the construct to ignore the lesser threats and focus on the source. Movement stirs in the nearby brush as something else approaches the perimeter, and the girl catches sight of the shadows closing in from the dense forest. The pack shifts its target, revealing they are mere Shadowclaws and not the behemoth, which gives the rival a sudden boost of confidence to protect those behind him. Meanwhile, a mysterious woman steps forward in the distance, gathering magical energy. Her eyes glow with an intense, focused light as she prepares to strike. A massive pillar of fire erupts from her staff and consumes the entire area, and the immediate threat of the monster lord is wiped out in the flames. She senses the overwhelming dark mana and realizes the entire forest is compromised. Something cold and lethal begins to stir in the shadows behind the remaining group. Her focus snaps toward the new, more dangerous presence emerging from the dark, heavy. Rhythmic footsteps echo through the trees as the true threat finally manifests, and the creature reveals itself as a dark entity standing right before their eyes. The source of the dark mana finally emerges, an undead knight riding a spectral warhorse. Its aura is ancient and cold, clearly revived from some long-forgotten tomb. The woman realizes this knight is the true mastermind behind the forest's current frenzy. She calculates that its power level far exceeds her own abilities, yet she cannot let it pass. Gathering every ounce of her remaining mana, she commits to a final, desperate strike. Screaming out the name of her ultimate technique, she unleashes a massive, concentrated blast. A searing pillar of energy tears through the canopy and slams directly into the knight. The impact point glows with blinding intensity, momentarily swallowing the undead figure in fire. Shockwaves ripple through the forest as the explosion forces the entity into the ground. The woman gasps, hopeful that her sheer output was enough to neutralize the threat. But a blade cuts through the smoke, showing that the knight is entirely unfazed. The undead entity strides forward, Completely ignoring the assault as the woman collapses, it continues its steady advance through the trees, closing the distance to the rest of the group. MC watches the destruction, calmly signaling for his own construct to return to his side. A sudden, oppressive pressure washes over him, making it clear that something is wrong. Noticing the glowing blue flames in the distance, he realizes the real deal has finally arrived. The knight stops before him. An ancient monarch reconstructed from nothing but solidified dark mana, its voice rings out with supernatural authority, demanding that everyone kneel before it. MC stares back, his eyes narrowing as he prepares to challenge the creature's command. Steel clashes against spectral armor as the knight initiates the first strike of the real fight. The undead knight brings its massive blade down with enough force to shatter the ground. A deafening clang echoes across the battlefield as the strike connects with everything in its path. Shockwaves tear through the area, forcing the guy to brace himself against the raw mana outburst. He instantly recognizes the sheer density of the dark mana radiating from the ancient monarch. A swirling vortex of energy erupts into the sky, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. The woman and the girl tremble under the oppressive weight of the entity's presence. The guy notes the direction of the disturbance. Realizing it leads exactly where his acquaintance headed, distant trees are pulverized as the energy beacon continues to expand and tear the forest apart. The red-haired teacher observes the chaos unfolding from afar, her expression turning grim. She recognizes the danger threatening her students and prepares to rush toward the epicenter. The undead knight remains mounted amidst the wreckage, surveying the destruction it has wrought. The guy analyzes the creature's behavior, concluding that the monarch is hunting the strongest prey to feed. A cold sense of resolve takes over as he decides the entity is nothing more than a pathetic remnant. The undead knight raises its spear, preparing for another devastating charge against its opponent. Dark mana flares around the monarch, but the guy refuses to acknowledge its claim to power. He watches the creature lunge forward, showing no intention of backing down from the confrontation. Calculating his next move, he realizes a direct physical clash will not be enough to win. A specific memory echo technique activates in his palm, weaving a trap for the spectral foe. Mana begins to pulse around the guy, signaling the start of a counteroffensive. He locks the undead knight into a manufactured illusion, ready to dismantle the monarch from within. The illusion takes hold, and the undead knight finds itself trapped within the guy's mental snare. Shadows twist around the monarch as the reality of the battlefield begins to fray and dissolve. A spectral roar tears through the void, signaling that the creature's consciousness is fracturing under pressure. The guy watches from the sidelines, knowing he has successfully baited the monarch into a personal grave. Seeing a prime chance to test his summoned champion, he calls out the blade seat to begin its first full-power trial. The spectral servant bows to its master, fully committed to ending the undead knight's existence. Sanity completely stripped away by the memory echo, the knight transforms into a mindless, killing machine. The blade seat launches forward with a blinding surge of mana, closing the gap in a heartbeat. Impact rocks the arena as the two titans collide, sending shockwaves through the unstable realm. Sparks fly from the grinding blades while both combatants trade heavy, punishing strikes. The blade seat maneuvers with surgical precision, forcing the monarch onto the defensive against the relentless assault. Steel rings out against steel, echoing the sheer force behind the blade seat's perfect technique. The undead knight struggles to regain its footing, feeling the weight of the champion's superior form. Momentum shifts as the blade seat finds an opening, driving the knight back toward the edge. The champion taunts the fading monarch, mocking its hollow display of strength. A final, desperate roar erupts from the knight as it gathers every remaining drop of dark mana. The monarch swings its massive spear with lethal intent, hoping to end the duel with one decisive blow. Power carves through the air in a terrifying arc, threatening to consume the blade seat entirely. Light erupts from the champion's blade in response, meeting the dark spear head-on in a brilliant clash. The guy remains completely focused on the outcome, ready to see if his creation can claim the victory. The champion unleashes a blinding technique, channeling raw power into a strike that cuts through the very air. A violent detonation ripples across the arena, swallowing both combatants in a vortex of pure, unbridled energy. When the dust clears, the undead knight is left staggering, its form reeling from the sheer intensity of the blast. It looks around at the empty space, realizing its own dark aura has been utterly extinguished by the blow. The champion closes the distance in a blur, pressing the advantage before the monarch can even think to recover, gathering concentrated energy into a final, precise movement. The champion executes a piercing strike meant to end it all. That lethal energy skewers the knight instantly, anchoring it to the ground as the technique tears through its spectral armor. The champion whispers that this final blow is the true death the monarch has been waiting for all along. A massive shockwave erupts at the point of impact, shattering the knight into nothingness as its essence finally collapses. Blue flames of spent energy drift upward like embers, marking the total disintegration of the once mighty undead commander. The champion sheathes its blade, standing tall as it reports the total defeat of the enemy to its master. The guy watches from afar, satisfied with the brutal efficiency displayed by his summoned creation. He reaches out to recall the lingering energy, watching the last remnants of the fight fade away into his palm. With a gentle command, he allows the soul of the knight to finally find the peace it was denied. Movement catches his eye further down the path, where a lone figure steps out from the cover of the woods. The teacher stares ahead in disbelief, realizing the massive aura of the undead knight has completely vanished from the battlefield. Her eyes narrow as she processes the impossible outcome, struggling to understand how such a powerful entity was neutralized so quickly. She scans the horizon, catching a glimpse of the lone figure standing amidst the ruins of the duel. The guy turns his gaze toward her. His expression unreadable as he senses her presence closing in on his position. She recognizes him instantly, her mind racing as she wonders if he is truly the one responsible for destroying the night. MC plays it cool, acting relieved to see the senior safe and sound. She steps closer, immediately questioning him about the headless undead knight she felt nearby. The guy keeps his story straight, claiming he has not seen any monster of that description. He deflects the suspicion by pointing out the area was already crawling with wolves when he arrived. His words make her suspicious, and she wonders if he is hiding his true power. She decides to drop the interrogation for now, but warns him the students are still worried. MC deflects again by telling her to stop worrying them with her current state. Realizing he has a point, she takes a breath and lets the topic go entirely. Suddenly, she channels a massive burst of energy, scanning the immediate surroundings for any lingering traces. The senior looks around, focused on her task and momentarily distracted from questioning him. She blinks in confusion. Realizing that while she was distracted, he has already slipped away, the guy is already miles away. Tracking the residual dark mana toward an ancient tomb, he studies the dense energy signature, confirming it matches the trail of the undead knight. Following the trail deeper into the shadows, he finds the exact spot where the revival occurred. Dark mana swirls violently around the site like a corrupted storm waiting to be tapped. He steps directly into the vortex, letting the raw energy wash over him without fear. A faint smirk crosses his face as he realizes he has finally located the source. Deep beneath the surface, he reveals a massive glowing seal embedded in the ruined floor. Mana lashes out as he interacts with the ancient mechanism. Trying to claim the power for himself, he barks a command for the lingering presence to get lost. Asserting his total control over the tomb, the seal cracks under his command, letting out a sharp, ringing sound as the energy stabilizes. He inspects an artificial magic formation embedded in the ruins, realizing someone used mana-infused stones to force a revival. The guy concludes this mess was clearly orchestrated, as the monster forest does not just go haywire on its own. Calling these petty tricks an insult to the undead, he pockets the remaining magic stones for future use, claiming the dark loot as his own. He smirks at the power now resting firmly in his hands. Meanwhile, the teacher gathers the rest of the group. Convinced that the danger has finally passed, she confirms everyone has finished their assignments, preparing them all to head back to the academy immediately. One of the students notices the guy is still missing, pointing out that he ran into the forest earlier. The teacher confirms that the kid disappeared after the chaos began, keeping her focus on the group's safety. She internally questions just how powerful the guy really is, suspecting he might be behind the mana disturbances. The other students mock the guy for being a coward, claiming he definitely ran away to save his own skin. The teacher insists that he will return soon, refusing to leave the area until he is accounted for. They continue to trade insults about his survival chances, betting he is already monster food. A student asks the teacher about the strange energy flare from earlier, pushing for a straight answer. She brushes off the concern by labeling it a simple mana eruption, insisting the forest is now safe. The students continue to trash-talk the guy, calling him a deserter who was lucky to survive the wolves. Just as they mock his supposed cowardice, the guy calmly walks back out of the dense woods. A girl rushes over to check on him, asking if he is alright after his disappearance. He brushes off her concern with a brief nod, not interested in explaining his activities in the tomb. The teacher stares him down with a suspicious look, realizing he is far more than a simple student. MC hands the teacher a wolf claw as proof of his work, casually dismissing his long absence. The teacher notices the lingering mana in the forest has suddenly vanished. Realizing he is the source, she forces herself to push aside her growing suspicions, reminding herself that he is just another student to protect. The group packs up their gear and begins the trek back to the city, leaving the forest behind. They eventually reach the academy gates, ending the field trip without any more major incidents. Deep in the tomb, a heavy boot steps onto the ruins of the shattered magic seal. A mysterious robed figure inspects the remnants of the site. Staring down at the glowing blue fragments, someone has clearly sabotaged the entire formation, leaving the master of the tomb furious at the intrusion. The figure wonders if a powerful grandmaster or an elite rival managed to wake the knight. Murderous intent flares in his eyes as he vows to kill anyone who dares to interfere with his plans. Life at the academy returns to normal, though the shadows are already shifting for the coming conflict. MC walks through the halls wondering how much the teacher actually managed to uncover about his true strength. He stops in his tracks as he spots someone familiar waiting in the corridor. A blonde noble stands there watching him, his expression cold and immediately radiating hostility. Nearby female students swoon over the noble, whispering about how handsome he is compared to the other brats. The noble glares at MC with pure contempt, mocking him for acting like a privileged high ranker. MC does not flinch at the insults, simply asking the guy why he seems so desperate to start a fight. The noble rants about how much he hates MC, furious that he's getting all the female attention. MC reflects on his past life and his former rivalry with this guy, feeling completely detached from the drama. He takes a step forward to confront the noble, ready to settle this petty grudge once and for all. MC tries to walk through the hall, but the rival and his goons block the path, demanding he get out of their way because they refuse to move for someone like him. Their faces inches apart as the tension hits a breaking point. Students nearby scramble to stay clear, warning each other that messing with these two is a recipe for disaster. Then the teacher steps into the corridor, calling them out for blocking the entrance and suggesting a combat class instead. The rival immediately backs down with a polite apology. Clearly intimidated by her presence, he tosses a parting threat at MC before storming off, leaving him behind as the crowd disperses. MC watches them go, then turns his attention to the teacher, following her into her office as she settles into her chair. He asks to be excused from the upcoming afternoon combat session. She smiles with a knowing look, teasing him about whether he is hiding his true power from the other students. MC keeps his cool, not giving her a single hint of his actual intentions, admitting she guessed right about his request as they lock eyes. He pulls out a crystal and asks if she has ever heard of the Tear of the Dead. She recognizes the artifact as a relic of immense power that the Academy keeps locked in the magic vault, questioning why he would even want such a dangerous item. MC confirms he is dead set on obtaining it. The teacher explains she lacks the authority to just hand over something that rare, and he pushes back. Wondering if she really has no say in the matter, she offers him a deal, promising to introduce him to a professor who can help if he proves his worth in this afternoon's combat training. MC realizes this teacher is going to be a tough nut to crack, but he begrudgingly agrees to her terms to secure that artifact. The scene shifts to the bustling training grounds where everyone is warming up. The girl enters the arena and instantly draws every eye in the room. Students gossip about her mysterious background and high status. They also notice the guy known as the young master approaching her. He tries to strike up a friendly conversation about her family. She plays it cool and keeps the chat polite but brief. Her attention suddenly shifts when she spots an older man walking nearby. The girl goes to greet him but realizes MC is watching from across the hall. He catches her gaze and holds a finger to his lips. She gets the message and immediately stops talking. The young master feels completely snubbed by her sudden silence. His eyes follow her line of sight to see who she was looking at. Frustration boils over as the doors to the training hall slam open. The rival storms in and blames the guy for a morning confrontation. He cracks his knuckles while declaring he is in the mood for violence. The guy does not even bother to stand up as the rival approaches. He taunts the guy about a previous run-in and promises to break him. The crowd realizes a real combat duel is about to break out. The instructor cuts through the tension by reminding everyone that combat rules apply to their dispute, so the rival wastes no time in formally demanding a spar against the young master, claiming he can hold his own even if he has to incorporate magic into the fight. The young master accepts the challenge without a second of hesitation, which only feeds the rival's confidence as he mocks him for what is about to happen. Both fighters take their positions in the center of the arena. Onlookers start scrambling for a better view as the news of the duel spreads. One of the girls expresses doubt while mentioning rumors that the young master learned advanced techniques. The rival lunges forward in a blind fury, intent on settling their score through violence. The young master remains perfectly still and waits for the opening. His precision strikes find their mark before the rival can even connect. A swift counter lands squarely on the rival's face, showing the shock on his opponent's face as the reality of the power gap sinks in. The young master follows up with a crushing blow that sends the rival flying into the wall. The crowd erupts in cheers for the young master's display of dominance. Fans swoon over his strength. Though his acquaintance remains silently unimpressed by the spectacle, the young master looms over the defeated rival and demands he finally concede. His cold expression barely changes as he offers one last chance to apologize. The rival refuses to back down and screams in pure, unadulterated rage, charging back into the fray for one more desperate attack that is bound to fail. The rival commits to one final, reckless strike, but Kaya intercepts him with a clean, decisive blow to the face. The surrounding spectators watch in disbelief as the fight takes such a sudden turn, while the acquaintance observes the carnage with a growing sense of annoyance. She warns the others to look away before they end up humiliated. Just like the rival, another instigator steps up to fix his uniform, clearly looking for a new target to bully. He sneers at Kaya and orders him to stay out of their way. Kaya reflects on his past life as a necromancer and his commitment to mastering physical combat. He channels his focus, proving that he does not need dark magic to dismantle arrogant opponents. Kaya tells the rival he is completely out of his leg. The rival realizes he has severely underestimated his opponent. Kaya launches him into the air with a single, brutal movement. The rival crashes hard onto the arena floor, completely broken. The young master stands over the wreckage, arms crossed and entirely unfazed. The acquaintance stares in shock at the display of raw power. She realizes that the rival's failed move was actually a tactical disaster. Kaya shifts his stance, ready to end the confrontation for good. He sighs in frustration. Realizing he accidentally used too much strength, the rival lies motionless in the dust, no longer a threat to anyone. Kaya turns his back on the defeated man, leaving the entire arena in complete silence. The defeated challenger struggles to stand while the surrounding students whisper in disbelief. The young master confronts him, calmly dismissing the previous display as a mere spar, but the challenger is having none of it. Clearly still reeling from the overwhelming force of the attack, Kaya remains cold, telling the guy he has no standing to complain after how he started this. A dark, suffocating aura begins to erupt from the challenger as he loses his composure. A girl in the crowd realizes the situation has spiraled out of control and worries for her friend. Other onlookers recognize the challenger as a reckless provocateur and brace themselves for a real fight. The girl watches with growing dread, fearing the young master might actually cripple him this time. A new challenger enters the fray, demanding a rare artifact as the price for a serious duel. The first challenger ignores the warnings and charges forward, desperate to regain some shred of pride. Murmurs spread through the crowd as they realize the young master is about to reveal a forbidden technique. He unleashes a brutal strike that tears through the air with enough force to shatter stone. The challenger is launched backward with impossible speed, slamming into the perimeter wall. Kaya stands perfectly still, warning the guy that his arrogance is about to get him killed. A massive shockwave ripples from the center of the arena, forcing the spectators to shield their eyes. The young master connects with a clean, devastating blow that stops the challenger dead in his tracks. Disbelief washes over the guy as he realizes his strongest attack was countered like it was nothing. The young master yanks the guy away, completely dictating the flow of the battle. The challenger tries to justify his years of training, but the reality of his failure is starting to sink in. Kaya cuts him off, reprimanding him for using such dangerous power against a fellow student. The crowd realizes the young master held back his true strength, and his opponent decides to escalate the fight with a dangerous technique, unleashing a barrage of strikes aimed directly at his target. But the young master effortlessly withstands the onslaught of blows, wondering if the guy is truly as weak as he seems, while he prepares a counterattack with a single, focused motion, landing a clean hit that sends the guy flying across the arena, as the young master decides it is time to turn up the intensity. While the spectators cheer, hoping to see the young master finally get dismantled, but he calmly brushes a speck of dust off his uniform, completely unfazed by the flurry of attacks he just endured. So the guy stares in utter disbelief at his own failed technique, and the young master prepares to take his turn in the exchange as the guy shields his eyes from the overwhelming pressure, for the young master would rather keep a low profile despite his obvious skill. Then he channels a surge of energy that tears through the air, striking the guy with such precision that he loses his breath, as the sheer force of the impact sends the guy soaring through the space, until he crashes into the ground with a bone-jarring thud, left broken and trembling from the power of the young master's counter. The realization hits the girl that her companion has been soundly defeated by the young master, as she remembers the tavern encounter and suspects it was never just a stroke of luck. But now she rushes to check on the fallen rival while the surrounding students start hurling accusations, claiming the young master fought with unnecessary brutality instead of keeping it a simple sparring match, while others join the chorus of insults, mocking the young master's background and questioning his basic decency. For the young master muses internally that his former self would have simply unleashed an undead legion, until a sudden shout cuts through the noise, silencing the crowd as a new figure steps forward, and the onlookers freeze, realizing they have pushed the situation way too far. So the young master turns his head, his gaze cold and perfectly steady, while the new girl points an accusing finger, demanding to know who they think they are to judge, for she points out that if the rival had actually landed a hit, the damage would have been severe, leaving the crowd speechless and questioning why she would stand up for the defeated rival. Then she reaches out to grab the rival's hand, pulling him up from the cold floor, and she tells the young master it is time to leave, refusing to waste another second here. So they turn and walk away together, leaving the murmuring crowd behind in the training hall while the defeated rival watches them go, his expression twisted with lingering shock and frustration. As the red-haired observer watches the exit from the shadows, her interest in the young master peaked, for she realizes his true strength is far beyond her initial estimates and plans to introduce him to a professor, while the young master walks through the halls, his mind already calculating the next move. And he wonders if his actions today will complicate the delicate balance between his house and the academy. The girl scoffs at the rival's family, openly declaring her disdain for them, and she insists that cutting all ties with their house is the only way forward. So the young master questions if she is truly prepared for the fallout of that decision, but she dismisses his concerns entirely, claiming their strength is more than enough to handle any trouble. Then she reveals a glowing artifact, noting the intense dark mana radiating from it, and she tasks an unseen subordinate to monitor a plot involving this dangerous energy. Meanwhile, the defeated rival sits alone in his room, clearly reeling from his public humiliation when his brother arrives, demanding to know the reason for his current state. So the rival explains that the girl who defended him had publicly embarrassed him in front of everyone, and his brother's eyes flare with dark intent as he vows to settle this score. For he stares at a jagged blade decorated with skulls, fully aware of the implications. Then he declares that an infamous assassin will handle the problem, and the rival realizes his brother is calling upon a legendary killer known across the empire, as the brother laughs maniacally, certain that the rival's enemy will be wiped out without a trace, while the young master enters his study, finding the red-haired observer already waiting for him. For she admits that his performance in the arena completely exceeded her expectations, and she guesses that he is a successor to an ancient knight's combat style. So the young master laughs off the guess, noting that he only used the artifact for this fight, but the observer ignores his comment, insisting that he must meet a prominent professor at the academy, and she leads him down the hall, warning him that the man is known for his difficult temper. The observer leads the young master into a research lab tucked away in the academy, where a senior man named the professor is busy brewing a glowing green concoction, and despite the observer introducing the guest, the old man demands they stay out of his way, for she reminds him that the artifact known as the Tear of the Dead belongs to the young master, while quietly warning him that this researcher has a temper and getting the item will not be easy. Yet the young master notices the professor is experimenting on a deceased cat using forbidden soul magic. As the professor pours the glowing solution directly onto the remains, then a violent discharge of energy erupts, instantly obliterating the subject, and the observer gasps in horror at the sudden, volatile failure of the spell, for the professor rages at his own lack of success despite following the ancient texts. Because he has been obsessively chasing a breakthrough in resurrection magic with zero results, while the young master observes that the professor's understanding of soul theory is incredibly shallow, and the old man continues to second-guess his own measurements and potion ratios as he pours more unstable life energy onto the target, leading to another botched reaction, for the magical circle cracks and explodes again, showering the room in debris. While the young master realizes the professor is trying to use life energy to stabilize death, and the professor screams in frustration, completely unable to identify his recurring mistake, so the young master calmly suggests that maybe those specific potions are the actual problem, but the professor turns his ire toward the boy, annoyed by his unexpected intrusion. Then he snaps at the young master for daring to criticize his work without knowing basic soul theory. The professor waves him off, demanding he leave and stop interfering with the experiment. But the young master insists that the life energy being used is actually toxic to the ritual, which triggers the professor to boast about the quality of his ingredients while mocking the boy's arrogance. So the young master suggests shifting the perspective to undeath and using aged grave soil instead, and the observer pulls the boy back, panicked that he is further agitating the volatile old man, yet the professor freezes, considering the radical new approach to his life's work. Then he sprinkles the grave soil onto the circle, testing the theory, and the spirit of the cat begins to manifest, hovering above the glowing runes. The professor stares in disbelief as the energy stabilizes, finally showing signs of life, while the observer watches, stunned by the sudden turn in the experiment's success. Though the young master remains skeptical, noting the cat's soul had already been too scattered, however, the professor ignores all caution and pours everything into forcing the return, channeling the power of an undead monarch to bridge the gap between worlds, and the surge of energy pulls the spectral form down into the physical vessel, commanding the essence to return to the mortal realm. Finally, the cat lands on its feet, though the young master warns the spell is only temporary. The professor celebrates the breakthrough, ecstatic that he finally achieved a successful resurrection, and he immediately turns to demand the boy's name and the source of his profound knowledge. So the observer introduces him as a promising student, proud of the young master's success, and the professor declares him a genius for overturning core doctrines, eager to learn more. The observer watches as the professor becomes completely enamored with the young master, and the professor erupts with excitement, praising the boy for his revolutionary grasp of undead theory. Suddenly remembering the reason for their meeting, the professor asks about the rare artifact. The young master produces the Tear of the Dead, holding it out as a bargaining chip, which instantly captures the professor's full attention as he makes his play, demanding the boy become his assistant in exchange for the prize. Promising access to forbidden resurrection research and rare materials if they work as partners, the young master considers the offer, realizing the potential for acquiring even more powerful resources. Meanwhile, the observer tries to protest the sudden dismissal of her own student, but the professor brushes her off, completely fixated on his new recruit. Finally, the young master accepts the proposal to work alongside the old researcher, internally noting that this new status will grant him the cover he needs for his true objectives. The professor hands over a golden key, granting him full access to the private laboratory, and he walks the boy through the massive library, welcoming his new chief assistant to the workspace. The observer stands back in disbelief, struggling to process how her student rose so high so quickly. Time jumps forward 2 days as a lone tavern sits under the moonlight. Someone waits inside the tavern, nursing a glass while keeping a close watch on the entrance. A contact approaches to announce the arrival of the specific target they have been tracking. The door swings open to reveal a man stepping into the dimly lit room. An assassin known as Rennie enters, marking the start of a dangerous new encounter. The contact greets the assassin with a smile, praising the reputation of the legendary direwolf. But the hitman brushes off the flattery, annoyed by the detour he took for his brother's sake. The contact swallows his pride at the cold rejection, knowing he needs this man for the hit, so he drops a heavy bag of gold on the table and promises a massive bonus upon completion. The assassin reads the dossier, realizing the target is a low-ranking student from a fallen noble house. He scoffs at the request, questioning why someone would pay for a hit on a mere student, and he bluntly refuses to get his hands dirty with such trivial, childish work. The contact quickly reveals that the target humiliated his brother and holds a connection to a powerful heiress. This information catches the hitman's interest. As the mention of that specific noble house shifts his perspective, he agrees to take the contract but demands his price be raised to 5,000 gold coins. The contact eagerly agrees to the terms, just desperate to see the target eliminated. The assassin reassures him that professionals never leak their client's identity, regardless of the job's outcome, and he vows that his success rate remains perfect, his eyes glowing with a dark promise. The target's name is whispered into the night, marking the student as a dead man walking. The hitman moves across the rooftops with lethal precision, stalking his prey through the city streets. He masks his face and readies his gear, fully committed to the contract he just accepted. Scouting the route the student takes every night, he patiently waits for the perfect moment to strike. The student walks alone under the moonlight, oblivious to the predator watching from the shadows above. He sighs to himself about the exhausting research schedule keeping him from his own plans. And just as he reaches the dark alley, he senses a shift in the air, realizing he is not alone. The student instantly identifies a powerhouse aura, recognizing the assassin as a high-level archmage. Silence falls as the predator steps out of the shadows, and a sudden lethal strike cuts through the night air toward the unsuspecting target, but the student easily dodges the ambush, wondering if this hitman is tied to the magic formation he previously sabotaged. Deciding not to waste time on speculation, the student simply stares up at the rooftop and calls him out. The assassin sneers at the kid's audacity, mocking the choice of a death trap as a final resting place. Intense hostility radiates from the student as he locks eyes with the attacker. His gaze is so piercing it actually rattles the experienced killer, and the assassin shrieks in disbelief, his dark aura flaring as he prepares to finish the job. A blade wreathed in cursed energy manifests, ready to sever the student's life. Yet the student catches the razor-sharp edge with his bare hands. Stopping the shadow technique, cold blood drips from the student's palm. Though he remains completely unfazed by the wound, demanding to know exactly who sent the hitman to his doorstep, the assassin panics, realizing his signature technique was countered by a mere beginner student, and the student tosses the broken blade aside like it is nothing but scrap metal. The hitman scrambles backward, his confidence shattered by the display of raw power. Realizing his target is far stronger than any archmage he has faced, he decides retreat is the only option left. Blood spills as the assassin tries to force an escape through the shadows, but the student does not let him get far, closing the distance in a blink. And now that the hunter has become the prey, the student promises to make him talk. The student channels a surge of raw energy, his aura crackling as he corners the wounded assassin. Relentless pursuit leaves the assassin nowhere to hide. His shadow techniques flickering out against such overwhelming pressure. Terror hits the assassin as he realizes his own dark arts are being completely outclassed by his target. Panic forces the assassin to attempt one last desperate sprint, but a crushing blow connects instantly, sending the hitman sprawling to the cold floor, demanding a confession. The student looms over him with a lethal, glowing intensity. The assassin spits blood, still threatening that his powerful employers will hunt the student down for this. Coughing up dark fluid, he refuses to break even as his life drains away. So the student decides to bypass his stubbornness by reaching for his mind directly, tapping into a forbidden memory echo. He forces the assassin's secrets to surface in a flash of blue light revealed through the psychic link. A wealthy noble orders this hit, promising thousands of gold coins for the student's head. It turns out a rival house is behind the scheme, clearly underestimating the student's true power. The assassin screams in fear as his mind is pried open, begging for mercy while name-dropping his powerful masters. Unmoved by the pleas, the student declares that the assassin will be erased entirely from existence. And with a cold grin, he decides to harvest the assassin's soul to serve his own undead collection. A massive, spectral beast manifests from the void, looming over the quivering hitman. The assassin shrivels in pure dread, realizing his final moments have arrived at the hands of a true necromancer. With a flick of his wrist, the student casts the broken man aside to be consumed. Knowing the rival house will eventually come for him, the student decides to wait for the perfect moment to strike back. Meanwhile, oblivious to the carnage, the noble client sits drinking at a tavern, unaware his assassin has already been erased. The noble client grows restless while waiting for his assassin to return, unaware that his hired blade is long gone. He starts plotting a grand party to humiliate his rival. The next day, an official invitation to this victory celebration lands in the hands of the student. Noticing the sudden banquet, the girl questions why their enemy is hosting such a public display. Sensing something is off, she approaches the student to discuss the suspicious event. She greets him with a sharp realization about the invitation that arrived. Noting her intense focus, the student asks if the letter is bothering her. The girl confirms it is a banquet invite sent to everyone except him. Recognizing the blatant exclusion, the student dismisses the rival's pettiness with a cold smirk. He decides they should attend regardless, already sensing the hidden motive behind the party. Though the rival intentionally left him off the list, the student knows he can force his way in. The girl wonders why he wants to engage with such a loser. They eventually arrive at the grand estate where the lights are already blazing for the night. A guard at the entrance blocks their path, demanding to see a valid invitation. The girl steps forward to present her own invite and introduces the student as her +1. The guard hesitates at the sight of the student, recognizing the name his employer hates. Whispers ripple through the staff as they realize the target has walked right into their house. Unable to deny a formal guest, the guard relents and waves them into the main hall. The girl apologizes for the trouble, but the student remains focused on the chaos he plans to cause. Meanwhile, the noble client realizes his assassin is missing, and panic begins to set in. The noble client is spiraling over his missing assassin, demanding answers from his terrified subordinate. He erupts in a blind rage when the aide suggests the legendary killer might have actually failed. Demanding the final payment be readied for the assassin's return, he paces the floor in a fit of nerves. Meanwhile, the guests at the banquet continue mingling, unaware that their host is currently unraveling behind closed doors. He convinces himself that with the target eliminated, his own house will soon seize total control. Across the ballroom, the girl and her companion notice something has clearly gone wrong with the host. She pauses mid-conversation as she senses a sudden shift in the room's atmosphere. The noble client spots her from across the hall and decides to make his move, approaching with a rehearsed smile. He attempts to charm the girl with a drink. She shuts him down cold without a second thought, rejecting his advances entirely undeterred. He tries to pivot his attention to her companion, still hiding his growing anxiety. Suddenly, a familiar voice cuts through the noise, causing him to freeze mid-sentence. The student reveals his presence with a calm, chilling gaze that stops the noble client dead in his tracks. The shock of seeing him alive causes the host to stumble back and drop his glass in pure terror. Trembling, the host points a finger at the student. Unable to comprehend how he survived the ambush, the student steps forward, closing the distance as his aura forces the room into a tense silence. Panic fully sets in for the noble client as he desperately demands to know what happened to his assassin. The student casually mentions the ambush, confirming he knows exactly who sent the killers to intercept him. Dropping the broken weapon of the assassin onto the floor, the student forces the truth into the open. The host stares at the discarded blade, finally realizing his expensive hitman is dead and his plan has failed. The student confronts the noble client, demanding to know what he has done. A dark, vengeful presence erupts around the student, overwhelming the senses. The girl turns her gaze toward the noble client, noting the assassin was known as the Fierce Wolf. She demands to know his exact connection to the killer, pinning him with a cold stare. The noble client frantically tries to backpedal, insisting it is all just a massive misunderstanding. She scoffs at his pathetic denial, calling him out for hiring a hitman to execute the student. He tries to shift the blame back onto the student, but the girl refuses to listen to another word, cutting him off. She declares she has absolutely zero interest in his desperate excuses. She realizes this entire party was just a twisted front to celebrate a death that never happened. The girl reveals she has already spoken with her grandfather, officially severing all ties between their families. The noble client snaps, cursing the student for being the cause of his sudden downfall, ignoring the outburst. The girl tells the student it is time for them to leave. Nearby guests whisper in shock, wondering how the girl could break a family alliance over just one student. They stare at the student, questioning his true identity and why he commands such intense loyalty. The tension in the banquet hall remains thick as the group makes their exit, walking out into the night. The student and the girl finally find a moment of peace. She vents her fury about the noble client using an assassin, praising the student for his hidden strength. The student analyzes the situation, noting the assassin was too skilled to be acting on a simple whim. He suspects the plot went much deeper than just targeting him, likely aiming to seize the girl's assets as well. Looking up at the stars, the girl dismisses the fools who thought they could win by simply injuring him. The girl pledges her absolute loyalty to the student, promising to follow any command, but the student has only one goal in mind, demanding the total eradication of the rival family. Meanwhile, at the rival estate, a dark figure broods over a failing communication artifact. The guy realizes the connection is dead, signaling that his operative has gone completely silent. He learns from a desperate report that the operative failed his mission and the other agent has vanished. Refusing to accept the failure, he clutches the broken artifact while questioning how anyone could survive such a strike. The report confirms the girl has severed all ties, leaving the guy to scream in rage at the ruined plans. Grimly accepting the reality of the situation, he prepares to abandon his post and return to the home base. He drops everything to make the journey, knowing full well he has lost the upper hand. A lethal glint enters his eyes as he vows that the student is now a dead man walking. 2 days later, the action shifts to the academy laboratory where the student continues his secret research. He ponders why the rival faction has gone so quiet. Suspecting they are plotting a much darker move, deep in thought, he wonders what kind of trap they are preparing while he waits for his next lead. The professor suddenly interrupts their study session, announcing it is time to depart for an urgent errand. He explains that his recent breakthroughs have depleted his supply of magical materials, requiring a trip to the market. The student listens closely as the professor describes the exclusive hub where rare artifacts are traded. An eager assistant confirms they will be tagging along to broaden their horizons during the supply run. The student reflects on how this northern market never appeared in his past life, marking a new variable. Their carriage rolls into the trade city, the sound of wooden wheels echoing against the cobblestone streets. They arrive at the bustling merchant hub where rare goods and dangerous secrets finally converge. The teacher explains that mages from everywhere flock here, turning this northern spot into a massive magical bazaar. They head toward the main building, leaving the chaotic market stalls behind as they step into the grand entrance. A man greets them at the gate, immediately recognizing the teacher and acting like a nervous fanboy. The manager offers a warm welcome to the group, guiding them inside while the student takes a look around. MC observes the manager's fawning behavior and wonders if he can find the materials needed to unleash his forbidden power. Another man in a suit approaches them, claiming he is in charge of operations for the day. The teacher shuts down the pleasantries instantly, demanding to be shown the high-tier stock rather than cheap trinkets. The staffer stammers a quick apology and leads them deeper into the facility, clearly intimidated by the old man. They are ushered into a private room, but the student remains unimpressed by the standard display cases. MC dismisses the entire collection, signaling he has no interest in these mediocre offerings. The teacher demands rare items surging with life energy and soil from an ancient grave, pushing the staffer to deliver. Scanning a nearby specimen, MC analyzes a swamp crocodile bone and finds it rare but ultimately underwhelming. He sighs to himself, concluding that this supposedly legendary market is failing to meet his high expectations. True power requires items capable of defying reality, the kind of treasures that leave a trail of bodies behind. The assistant interrupts his thoughts, teasing the teacher about failing to snag a vital crystal before someone else. A rival professor suddenly appears to claim the crystal, prompting the teacher to engage in their usual bitter rivalry. That glowing green gem holds immense energy, but the teacher looks on with a sharp, calculating gaze. MC is not fooled by the shine, noting the crystal is just common wind ore and nowhere near the level he needs.